Hey everyone. Hi there.
Welcome
in. Our dogs are saying hello as well. Welcome to another installment of the Hydra Sisters, and we're here on December 9th, 2019. We're getting ready for the full moon in Gemini. I keep calling it the new moon in Gemini, which is kind of funny, but so we have a full moon in Gemini coming up on December 12th. Technically, if you're on the West Coast, it's on December 11th at 9 p.m. If you're on the East Coast, it's after midnight. So you might hear a lot of people calling it December 12th or December 11th. Mostly I've seen it as December 12th, but a good idea to keep in mind is that on a full moon, we'll be feeling the energy several days before and several days after. So it doesn't dissipate usually. The full moon doesn't dissipate for a couple days until after the full moon has passed. So we've got, the energy is building right now. Like I said before, it's December 9th. What time is it in Seattle right now? It's got to be about
4:45.
4:45. It looks like look at behind us here. Outside, it looks like we're in the dead of the night. So we are we're dealing with old man winter, as I'm sure anyone who in the northern hemisphere is right now. Here in Seattle, it's getting dark very late. And speaking of getting dark,
Very early.
Getting dark very early. Speaking of getting dark, and that unyielding darkness that never is seeming to let go of us. With the full moon in Gemini, that's associated with the Nine of Swords, which I've got the Hermetic Tarot right here, which I'll hold up a little closer maybe to see a little closer. Adrian and I will also hold up individually here what the Nine of Swords looks like. And so you can see that the Nine of Swords in this deck, it looks like she has her hands over her eyes like this, and she's looking up, and there are swords that are hanging above her head. And we all know that feeling when we feel like we have something hanging over our head, or we have a sword hanging over our head, that feeling of despair. And it's no accident that the Nine of Swords is called the Lord of Despair and Cruelty. And so I don't want to scare anyone with the full moon in Gemini, but the full moon in Gemini is ruled. So we have the full moon in Gemini at 19 degrees Gemini, which is ruled by the Nine of Swords. In case for those of you who are wondering the correspondences between tarot and astrology, there's quite a few correspondences between the pair. The other thing I wanted to point out is that Gemini also rules the Lover's card. So if we want to hold up the Lover's card for people too, get a look at that. Whee! Anyway, so the Lover's card is a major arcana, and then the Nine of Swords is a minor arcana. The Nine of Swords, because the Nine of Swords is actually what we're looking at for 19 degrees Gemini. The Nine of Swords is a card where we might have a lot of worry and frustration, and we might be up late at night thinking and ruminating, and we're not getting a lot of clarity, and we're sort of stuck in our thought process. This can also be where we have very self-defeating thoughts as well. So if you're beating up on yourself unknowingly or even knowingly, you might be in a Nine of Swords space. And I think that is something to remember when we're dealing with this card. And to think about how many times during the day do we actually beat up on ourselves? Are we talking to ourselves in a way that's unhealthy? Are we telling ourselves, I'm not worthy? Are we saying, I need to do this, this, and this? Also, I think this Nine of Swords energy for me too has to do with the unending to-do lists as well. It's like where we really hold ourselves to a certain standard, and if we don't meet it, then we get this dialogue in our head about how we didn't do a good enough job, how we are failing in various areas of our lives. It's those uncomfortable conversations that we have with ourselves, and sometimes it's with others too. But this is a very internal card, and despair is usually pretty internal anyway. Despair, we might feel despair because other people are creating situations around us which cause us to feel despair, but despair is a very internalized emotion, and with this Nine of Swords, we're just not getting any relief from that.
My card has cruelty written on the top of it, so it's really that mental anguish that we put ourselves through when we're struggling to make decisions, come to terms with things, see things clearly. And one of the things, I don't know if it's important to say, but Gemini is in Mars in this full moon, and so that energy is also more intense. It can feel overwhelming.
Yeah, so this card, the planetary ruler of this card for this moon is Mars in Gemini. And so with Mars in Gemini, we're getting almost aggressively bad, I don't want to say bad, but aggressively strong about the way that we overthink things. It's kind of going to the depths of things and driving by force, because Mars rules force. So it's like forcing ourselves to think a certain way, forcing ourselves. There's an element, and that's where the cruelty comes into play when we consider Mars. Mars in Gemini can also be words that injure others and hurt others as well too. It can be areas where we don't think before we speak, and where we just pop off at the mouth, and can have to do with having a very abrupt and harsh communication style. And when we're in the swords realm anyway, we're dealing with issues of the mind, and with Mars we're dealing with force, and so we're forcing our minds. We're with this card, we're going to force ourselves to get out of bed in the morning, and then in the morning, once we get out of bed, we're going to tell ourselves, gee, why aren't you doing this, and why aren't you doing that, and you should be worried about this, and you should be worried about that. So Nine of Swords can be a difficult energy, but it's not all bad. And I think, what we really...
It can help move us forward.
Absolutely.
The energy behind that is very immediately moving.
Right? And to get out of the worry is what we want to do. We want to focus on how do we get out of this worry, and how do we move into a more...
peaceful...
Yeah. Exactly.
State. Yeah.
Exactly. I feel like the vibe just lightened right now,
yes.
even after we quit talking about it. And we don't want to
So the energy can be intense
yeah.
and very necessary to move us along. Maybe we're stuck in something that needs to be released. And this moon is here to tell us that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and also I feel like it's telling us to take a nap and quit worrying so much.
Yes.
If you don't have all your Christmas lists done, if you don't have all your shopping done, if you don't know how you're going to pay your next bill, if you don't know how you're going to do this or do that, take a minute to pause on this full moon and breathe and try to get some good rest and try not to go crazy with it.
All right, so now we're going to pull some cards to get a general energetic feel about what we can expect from this full moon in Gemini energy.
Right.
So we're going to ask Spirit to give us guidance and information, messages that want to come through for our greatest and highest good for today, December 9th, 2019, full moon in Gemini energy.
What messages does Spirit have for this full moon in Gemini? What general message do we have from Spirit for this full moon in Gemini for the collective?
Mm.
Hmm.
So I have the Four of Pentacles, the King of Pentacles, the Four of Wands, the Princess of Cups, and the Queen of Swords.
Yes, and I have the Nine of Cups, the Page of Wands, the King of Cups, the Lovers, and the King of Wands. And the Lovers, I failed to mention before as we were talking, the Lovers is also represents Gemini, the major arcana. So maybe I did say it. Who knows? We're under Gemini energy here, but this is the twins. This is the blessed union underneath the Lovers. So that popped through. So there definitely is some people that are going to be feeling pretty.
Natalie, can you say for just maybe, I don't know, 30 seconds, what exactly does it mean to have Gemini energy? What exactly is Gemini energy?
Right. So Gemini energy is, first of all, in the realm of thought, communication, and Gemini energy is very quick. It's very, I'm not exuding very good Gemini energy right now. I'm kind of tripping over my words, but Gemini energy is very fast communication. It's not always very thoughtful, but Geminis are very good at being at 10 places at once, and they usually are like the perennial child of Peter Pan of the zodiac, and so there's a real lively and fun energy with Geminis, and they're very quick-witted and fast-witted, smooth talkers, quick talkers, but it's hard for them to stay in one place for one time. So oftentimes one sign of the zodiac is correcting for the preceding sign. So Tauruses are known for being very slow and methodical. So Geminis come after that and are not going to be very slow and methodical. So that's what I mean when I say Gemini energy. Also with Gemini energy, we talk about the twins. We talk about the man and the woman on the card and the blessed union between the two. We have Archangel Michael blessing the union at the top. Also with Gemini, we think about hot and cold, on and off, and Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. So that is also what I mean by Gemini energy.
Got it.
Yeah.
Totally.
Okay.
Let's see how I got this message coming through. It seems like the universe is saying to just hold back, relax, take a minute, look at what you have, what you've created. What you do, then, maybe through that process you'll be able to see what it is, what direction you want to focus on, what you love, and being really clear about that. That this moon might be a space for a time to just relax, look, be aware of what's completing, and then focus on what you want to create going forward.
Well, and the dolphin, I love the dolphin and the Princess of Cups there too, because I think the dolphin is very symbolizing of, healing and feminine energy. And I also love the moon on the top of the card there. It's not a full moon, which is, it's hard to think of Gemini as full. Like, when you think of a full moon, you think of like Cancer, or something like that as a full moon. But it's this playful energy too. I think with the Princess of Cups, we have this young and very sweet, playful energy that's coming through, right? And also with the Four of Wands, we see a playfulness too with the Four of Wands. Mm-hmm. And to me, this Four of Wands is also like the Lovers, because we've got the man and the woman, or the girl and the boy, and they're on a wheel above them, and then you've got the fire underneath them. That's also a partnership card and a happiness card. And so I think that, there's a softness. King of Pentacles, too, out of all the kings, is known to be more slow-moving than any of the kings. And so I think we see a very soulful, slower energy, while at the same time we're letting, the more, I see this, I see our Princess of Cups, our softer emotional nature being protected by the strong and discerning Queen of Wands.
Swords.
Or, sorry, Queen of Swords. And
yeah,
I see our softer emotional sides being, and also with the Four of Pentacles, what are we holding on to still that we haven't let go of yet? So there might be some, emotional clearing that we need to do on this full moon, especially around vulnerability, especially when it comes to our partnerships. So with Gemini energy, we're looking at our partnerships and when we come into union with others. And so there might be some issues there with our vulnerability and protecting ourselves that we are trying to work through. We're also trying to create a very stable base to operate from so that we can join others in union, so that when we come to the table, we're bringing our full selves. And we've let go of some of the things that, we need to let go of in order to enter into union with another. So I think that that's really coming through there. And definitely completion with the Four of Wands and completing a phase of our lives. And if
a cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adrian, how do you feel about the fact that it's December 12th? It's the last full moon of the year, or the full moon of this decade.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's time. It's the completion of something that has occurred, that has, paved the way for what's going to come, is a powerful sort of transcendence to the next level.
Yeah, I think so too. It's beautiful to have this final energy for the year, I think.
I think that this card really is, to me, like a passionate completion, like something that you've really felt strongly about, that has, really provided something powerful in your life, is now kind of, winding down.
Yeah.
And you're really, as I see going forward, you're really looking at new things that you want to direct your creative energy towards, and being really clear and discerning about what that is.
Yeah, I agree with that too, and I think it's a perfect time of year to be considering those things, because we are doing our New Year's resolutions and things like that. So,
and 2020 it breaks down to a 4, and I've got a couple 4s here, so I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 2020 numerology wise, I'm having a hard time getting my words today. Numerology wise breaks down to a 4, and so we've got a couple 4s on the table, which makes sense too.
Yeah, stability, moving into a different level of stability.
Yeah, yep. And I think stability supports vulnerability, and I think that's something to think about. Actually, I just had a moment of clarity on that, because a lot of times, for me personally speaking on it, I feel like I've used my stability as a shield against vulnerability.
Yeah, totally.
And I think there's something to, there's hurdles there in our intimate relationships, and the way we all personally have evolved, and how we're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to allow ourselves to just stability we're not going to allow ourselves to just maintain invulnerable relationships anymore. I think moving into the new year, we have to be vulnerable. We know that we have our Queen of Swords is always protecting us, and always is thinking about things and working through things, but it's safe to be vulnerable, I think, is the other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it opens up so much. It opens up the new opportunities.
Yeah. And so, coming over to the cards I pulled here too, I think resonates very much with what Adrian pulled. It's safe to be vulnerable. Right in the middle of the reading, we've got the King of Cups with the Lovers. And so sometimes Gemini energy can be known to be very fickle and doesn't really commit as well as maybe some of the other signs or energies do. But the King of Cups brings a very stable, emotionally aware, and we're looking at a Scorpio, Pisces, or Cancer energy, and we're looking at infusing that energy into this partnership bond. And so for those of you in committed relationships or considering committed relationships, and you're worried that something isn't very sturdy and it's a little bit fickle, the cards that we have on the table here do not seem to indicate that at all from either side. So if that is something that you've been concerned about, I think you can rest assured on that. The other king, I actually have two kings here. I have the King of Wands and the King of Cups, showing that
protecting the lovers.
Yeah, and it could be kind of it's spicy too.
It could be a decision that you're making between two people,
between two men,
two jobs, two opportunities, two more dominant energies. It doesn't necessarily have to be gender specific.
Exactly, right? But it could be two. It could be one really spicy gentleman and then one spicy one and then one quieter, sweeter one, or could it just be that you're
a job that you're more passionate about versus a job that's more stable, or a job that's more how would I describe
safe?
Yeah,
safe and comfortable. Yeah. So I think that's interesting. We've got two kings flanking the lovers. So for those of you in polyamorous situations, hopefully not in third party, but polyamorous situations, that could be interesting for you too.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a 9 and we have a page over here. And again, I pulled the 9 of Swords earlier. I think we'd all much rather be dealing with the 9 of Cups than the 9 of, or dealing with the 9 of Cups rather than Adrian's like, that is the 9 of Cups.
I don't want to be going through a 9 of Swords moment.
We want to make
much
it
longer.
We want to make it clear this is the 9 of Cups, and so so the 9 of Cups. I mean, the 9 of Cups has ate a bit too much in this picture and has had a little too much fun, and could possibly be a little
drunk and disorderly,
a little too happy. He looks like he ate about 10 pieces of cake and had 10 drinks and is now just letting his pants hang open or something, which is kind of
man.
The holidays for you. And then we have the Page of Wands, which the pages are messengers, and here we're seeing somebody who really knows what they want and who is ready to take the next step.
Yeah.
And you might be at the beginning of the step, but somebody is pretty certain about what they want and is willing to go after it. And I love the page in this deck because this page looks older than most of the pages do. So this is a page ready to start something new. But
what's really interesting about this is that I really get that what's happening energetically is that you're for me it's you're wanting to really, you're wishing to get really clear about some decisions that you have to make, and that there's some decisions between something that you love, something that you're passionate about, something related to relationships. It could be any relationship, whether it be dating, a marriage, a partnership, a job, and you're really trying to really get clear. You're wishing for some clarity around what is going to be the most passionate. You're trying to see the message.
Right. Yeah, I do think that that's true, and I'm just catching right here the lovers with the smoke in between them, right? So that could be, with the lovers card, we always have a choice, right? And sometimes it's veiled, and sometimes we don't know, what's going to provide the most growth, and what could potentially be, be the safer choice, right?
Yeah. Because there's two. I would, the message I'm getting is that to follow your passion. Follow your passion.
And I mean, I just love that they're naked too.
Yeah, that's
vulnerability.
Yeah, vulnerability.
We talk about.
Take a leap of faith. I mean, we don't have the Fool out here, but.
I saw the Fool at the beginning though, and it was on the bottom of the deck before we started this reading. So, that's
taking a risk towards something that you're passionate about. And it might not be, it might not be what you thought. That would where the vulnerability would come in.
Right, and also the King of Wands too, with being a very enterprising person who knows what they want. It might be something different if you really get in touch with how you feel about it. It might be something different. So, I think that's all we have here for the Gemini
Okay,
full moon.
awesome, everybody.
And I hope everyone enjoys and takes a nap and don't get too bogged down
by
with
that Gemini energy.
by the Nine of Swords.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Ciao for now.